Nicholas Andre Devanantera, sorry. CFA will introduce our speaker for the next session, A Bold New World. So to introduce our next speaker is actually the president of Finance Philcon Trading Corporation. So a big round of applause for both our moderator and our speaker for the next session this morning.
To talk about this bold new world, which is actually a very interesting topic, not just in the financial industry, but in all other industries that use tech, especially all industries. We have someone who has 11 years experience with deals, operations, and content delivery. Well, he started his career in 2004 as a data analyst working for Reuters Group. And then throughout the years, he has held various positions in deals operations before eventually being promoted to head of content specialists in 2011. In his current role, he is responsible for leading a team of specialists who work in collaboration with business strategy, technology operations, and content operations to deliver new content and product enhancements to deals and private equity clients. In addition to his role in deals and private equity, he is also responsible for driving the innovation culture across content teams in Manila. He works with a community of automation and process excellence experts in Content Manila to deliver process improvements and innovative ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome the head of deals and private equity content specialists, financial risk for Thomson Reuters, Mr. Deepak Verma.
Thank you, Nico, for that wonderful introduction. So 11 years, I didn't realize it's been that long. So I'm really excited to be here, and brings me back to my college days, starting off, I was thinking to myself, what I'm going to do. And I'm sure I attended a few of these sessions. I played around with simpler options like you're playing right now. Where do I go? Do I do a CFA? Do I do something else? And I hope all the presentations you've seen today are going to help you make that decision. But I hope the presentation I'm going to make is going to be informative, and it's a buzzword these days, big data, and that's what my presentation is all about. We titled it A Bold New World. Let me figure out how to use the clicker first. It's surprising that I spend so much time with technology and I struggle sometimes when I have to use it. Okay, so done again. Oops. Not pointing in the right direction. Like that. Sorry about that. As you can see, you get to learn something new every day. 11 years and I never thought I'd have to struggle with this. But yeah, now that we're on our way, let me start with a quick quote from William Edwards Deming. And the quote says, "In God we trust, and all others must bring data." It's a very powerful quote, and I'll tell you why. Because when I started hearing about big data, the first thing I was wondering is, why is there so much trust about big data? Data's been around all along. People make decisions based on data every day for hundreds of years. A simple example I remember is my mother, and I'm sure all of you relate to this, is my mother, before she went to the grocery market, she'd asked all our neighbors, hey, how much did you pay for a kilo of onions earlier today? What was she doing? She was really trying to gather data about the simple trade she's going to make later in the day in an unorganized market, because she wanted to make a well-informed decision when she goes to the market. Now let me take another example of people using data, right? All of us have these smartphones, cell phones, right? And all of us, before we go out in the market, we want to procure ourselves a new gadget. What is the first thing we do? We spend time on the internet, right? We review all the possible options, we review costs, we review features, and I'll tell you what, these days, one thing that people do that I didn't do back in my days was ask the community, what do you think I should buy? What are your reviews about Samsung or iPhone or whatever else there is in the market? So that tells us already the nature of changing consumer behavior, right? The nature of data is changing every day. So big data, I'm sure, like I said, it's a very confusing word. All of us been thinking, what is big data all about? And Global Language Monitor, these are the folks who are, the folks who go around identifying buzzwords and are, behind selfie being identified as the word of the year. So these folks have identified big data as the most confusing tech buzzword of the decade, or at least thus far. So why don't we spend a few minutes to try and understand what big data is all about, right? And why is there such a big fuss about big data and what this whole revolution is all about? Well, don't get too worried about the slide. I know there's a lot of content there, but I won't go into all of it. But what's important, and this is something you should always remember if you want to remember analytics and the changing face of analytics, it's the 4 V's of big data. And it's these 4 V's that are driving the big data revolution. Let's dive a bit deeper into the first one. Sorry, I skipped one. All right, never mind. Let's focus on the volume, the leftmost quadrant first. It said that 90% of the data was generated in the last 2 years. And it said that that data is going to double itself every 2 years going forward. As you can see, we're generating 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every day. It's amazing how we start using these words like quintillion and zettabytes. I think a couple of years ago we didn't even know these terms existed, right? And I'm sure folks are running out of words for the amount of data that's being generated day on, and then that gives you a sense of the volume of data all of us are generating. And the next V that I want to talk about is variety of data. And we're not anymore restricted to filling up forms, right? I remember going to college and I filled up a form, application form, and go to a scanner, and every time you go to the school and ask for your records, and somebody has to scan through thousands of documents. That age is gone. People now fill up everything online. But that forms are still an example of what we like to call structured data. Why is it structured? There's a key and there's a value next to it. That's not a problem. What is a problem is semi-structured and unstructured data. Now what do I mean by semi-structured and unstructured data? Your tweets, wall posts, Instagram pictures, these are examples of unstructured data. How do we procure all this content, process it, and then use it to drive decision making is not easy, I can tell you. Sitting on my side, I look at all this data and all the tweets that I'm receiving from bankers talking about how they're advising somebody on an M&A, I'm thinking, how am I going to get this data as quickly as I can? That's a good segue into the next week. As quickly as we can. Velocity of data. There's a good example there you can see at the bottom of the slide. Talks about how the New York Stock Exchange generates 1 terabyte of tick data. Now what is tick data? It's nothing but prices. And in a market that's trading constantly, and in a global economy where people are interested in trading all over the world, there is data being generated every millisecond, right? And we at Thomson Reuters have to process that data, identify what we call arbitrage opportunities, right? People need to identify, hey, can I use an arbitrage opportunity? There's an IPO recently, or there's a merger recently, and the share that's offer that's being given to this target company is $12. Can you tell me if that company is actually trading right now at 11? I might as well go buy it. I'll make $1 real quick, right? And those arbitrage opportunities don't exist for far too long. They vanish in a matter of minutes. And that's why velocity of data is so important. All of us really want breaking news to be delivered to our fingertips in a matter of seconds. Again, it's a matter of capitalizing on opportunity. And opportunities these days, I'm sure all of you realize, don't last too long. If you snooze, you lose, right? And that's why velocity of data has become absolutely critical. Processing data, deriving value from it, and using it at very quick speed and real-time processing has become really important. Let's talk about the last V, which is veracity of data. Now, veracity of data is all about whether the data is trustworthy. It's said that 30% of the data that we collect is not fit for real-time decision making. There's an interesting stat over there. The US economy loses $3.1 trillion every year because of poor quality of data that's driving decision making. So hopefully all of this is giving you a good sense of the challenges that we're facing in this new digital age in processing data, understanding consumer behavior, and driving decision making. To make it a lot more simpler, let's take an example. I'm sure you're all very familiar with the graphic I have up here. It's the map of the Philippines. And all of us, again, going back to the cell phones, all of us have cell phones. What are these cell phones doing? Every second they're sending data to network towers. And what are cell phone companies using this data for? Two things I would say. They use it for risk management and they use it for identifying opportunities. Now, risk in terms of what? In terms of business risk for themselves. They want to identify areas with no coverage. They want to identify areas where they have poor capacity and they want to increase their more loads, so they increase more networks. And it's also helping the community. Imagine a scenario where you're stuck in an emergency, incapacitated, you just can't speak. They can locate you based on the nearest network that your phone sent a signal to. And then let's talk a little bit about the commercial opportunity, right? There are new malls opening in the Philippines every day, right? And SM Aura opened, I think, a couple of years ago, right? And if a cell phone operator were to tell a commercial company that, hey, this is a sense of the number of people using Globe that are accessing SM Aura, right? For me, as a vendor, I'm like, wow, that's a huge number of people, and I want access to those people, right? So you can always use this data in commercializing what you have and finding folks to actually use and drive decisions based on it. Another example here, but I like to use this example to talk about the changing nature of analytics. Analytics back in the days used to be descriptive in nature. You ask a question, they tell you an answer. Now it's changing. It needs to be more predictive and more prescriptive. All of us, I'm sure, visit websites like Netflix, Amazon, don't we? Anybody here not familiar with those sites? I'm sure all of you are. right? Every time you visit these sites, the website is monitoring everything you do. They know where you came from, they know how much time you spent, they can even tell what browser you're using, right? They use that information very effectively. It's called the user experience analytics. So here's an example. You can see that YouTube is recommending to me, thanks to my 3-year-old daughter who's been playing with my smartphone recently and she's watching videos all the time. YouTube is suggesting to me that next time I come, here's what I recommend for you based on what you've been seeing. But technology can only go so far. They don't realize it was my daughter, not me, watching these videos. So now that we've sort of gone into the challenges of big data, understood the nature of change in analytics and consumer behavior, I'll give you 3 quick sentences that will help you summarize big data. And hopefully this is not too hard to remember. Applying computing capabilities to process complex data to drive decision making. That's all there is to remember about big data. So with all this big data going on and this whole new revolution, obviously there's going to be an impact on big data. And on some of the other aspects of the industry and community and people, etc. I'm going to talk about 2 of those areas. And the next one might be of most interest to this population here. So in case you were on your smartphones a while ago, I recommend you stop and pay attention to this. A data scientist. Now the data scientist has been identified by Harvard Business Review as the sexiest job of the 21st century. Do I see more people paying attention? Yes, I do. Right, now that I have your attention, might as well break into a burst of bubble. It's actually a unicorn that everybody chases. Why do people say that? Because today there's no one person who has all the capabilities to become a data scientist. Well, there are not too many, I would say. Right? So what are the core capabilities of a data scientist? You need a business analyst who understands the client, the data, and how to use that data to make decisions. You need a statistical engineer who will create models and algorithms which will help define that data. And you, of course, need a programmer. You don't do anything without technology these days, right? So I'm going to dive a little more deeper into this later, but keep in mind these are capabilities that are actually being highly sought after in this world of big data analytics. So let's quickly go into, I won't take too much time, this is just, I'm going to flash this here. A special mention to the folks at Hadoop, who've actually built a huge amount of technology to manage all the big data. Our conventional databases and technologies have gone out the door. They can't handle big data and the challenges that the 4 Bs present. And you've got new technologies now to store, process, and present data. And like I said, I won't go into this too details. And this is a slide in the picture if you like. It's on your brochures. So you can hopefully go back and look up some of these technologies. Let's talk a little bit about Thomson Reuters. At Thomson Reuters, we don't call it big data. We call it bold. What is bold? Bold means big data, open data, linked data. Let's dive a little bit deeper. This is a pretty interesting graph. This is actually one of our products. It's a flagship product called Icon. What you're seeing here is an interactive map, which is actually those small orange triangles that you see are shipping vessels that are carrying LNG and crude oil in and out of Asia. What I'm trying to do here is trying to figure out the inflow and outflow of LNG in and out of Asia. So imagine as a a commodities trader, you can actually predict the supply and demand of LNG. Now why is this a big data? challenge, it's a big data challenge because we're using information about the vessels. What's the name of the vessel? Where is it coming from? How much tons of crude oil or LNG can it carry? We're using data from port authorities. Port authorities tell us, is there a strike ongoing that might delay the cargo? We monitor weather to make sure we identify there's a typhoon coming. How is that going to delay the delivery of oil to a specific region and what that means for supply and demand? And of course, we monitor GPS, satellite images to produce what you see here. And we package it nicely in an interactive map in this picture. Right? So this is an example, right? I clicked on one of the orange boxes. You can see, I hope, that it's talking about this is the name of the ship, this is where it's coming from, this is where it's headed, this is the estimated time of arrival. I hope it made it on the 12th of September at 4 a.m. in Korea earlier. And I might tell you that this snapshot was taken a week ago. So that's exactly what I was talking about in terms of forecasting what's going to happen. And that tells you a good picture of how traders can actually understand what's going to be the supply and demand of crude oil, LNG, whatever you like, based on this analytic over here. I want to talk about OpenPermID. You guys can go look it up on Google. Just remember OpenPermID. It's a very effective tool. Play around with it. I would encourage you to do it. What OpenPermID? PermID, just for a second, stands for Permanent Identifier. All of us are so thrilled with Google. When you go to Google, try saying, tell me the forecasted revenue of Jollibee. Just type that. What you're going to get back is 100,000 hits. 100,000 hits. What are you going to do with that? Which one are you going to read? Can you really trust one of them? Are you going to put your hard-earned peso on it? I don't know. Right? So, permanent identification and linking of data is becoming really important these days. Right? So, permanent identifier here is a site which is accessible on the internet to anybody who wants to play with it. What you can do with PermID is you can go in, search for a company, you can see here Jollibee. Pull up the profile. Obviously, we're holding back a lot of information, but if you log in, you get free access for some time. There are premium services which I want to talk about. But what's good is we're making this data available for free to the community because we want to collaborate with the community. We want to innovate with people like you who have an idea, who can use all the information we have, all the metadata that we've collected to your benefit, partner with us for free. Right? This is a simple example which can actually run thousands of them. There's an option to bulk up to 1,000 companies and to hit back with this is what we have as an identifier. And you can then probably use one of the services to get whatever data you need. So if you're going to do research in the future and you want to pull up a big industry report, one tool you can probably use. So this is a good example of which this is also a feature available in the PermID website. You can go paste any sort of unstructured document. I've used an example here of eBay selling PayPal or spinning off PayPal. PayPal is a company by itself. It used to be part of eBay. What's happened here is I put that text and on the left it structured the data for me automatically. It's highlighting names of companies that have been used, and it's highlighting names of people that have been used. Right? And imagine if you're trying to do a research about Warren Buffett, for example, and you have thousands of documents, you can stream all those 1,000 documents in here, and it will generate an analytic for you and say Warren Buffett is used in all these different documents. So again, if you're going to do research, maybe you can use this. But investment community uses it for all different kinds of requirements. So the last slide I have here about gold is linked data. So Thomson Reuters has 5 divisions. We have the corporate division, we have F&R, which I belong to, financial and risk. You have the legal division, you have IP and science, and you have tax and accounting. Now, how do you bring all that data together and help decision-making process? A good example here is A company like Facebook, right, has a director or the founder, Mark Zuckerberg. He has patents. Those patents are assigned to products. Those products are taxed. That tax goes to the city. So all of that information, so I'm sure you're used to this shopping cart experience when you go on Expedia, you're trying to book a travel and tells you where you want to go, book flight, book a hotel, book a cab. So it's actually leading you from one place to another, and that's the power of linked data. And in the financial industry, I can tell you, I don't want to boast about Thomson Reuters, but no company, none of our competitors, they compete with us in different spaces. But the power of what we call enterprise it's unparalleled. There's no other company that has 5 different divisions coming together, providing data which will actually help drive decision making. So, really quickly, if you have to remember 5 things from this presentation, I know I spoke a lot. I know I was being very technical at times, so I'm really sorry about that. But if you have to remember 5 things, it is the 4 V's of big data: volume, variety, velocity, and veracity. The next thing you want to remember is the changing nature of analytics: descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. Data scientists. I'm sure most of you are going to be talking about that when you go back researching it. I think you should. Hadoop in terms of technology, and of course, bold. It's big, it's open, and it's linked. It's not just big. So that was it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed that.